I mean, and may all that we do be for the glory of his holy name, for the welfare of his church and the salvation of our souls. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your patience. I had been invited to lead an online Bible study class, Orthodox one, that was scheduled for the hour before we get on here. So I was finishing up with them, and we were deep in the discussion of Matthew 16:17, and you are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. So no way you can like weasel your way out of that one without a solid discussion. So anyway, that's what I've been doing. Change gears now, and we will talk about finding our purpose, right? Before I do that, shameless self-promotion since I have the floor. Father Hans and I are leading another men's retreat at the end of September. It's called Cry of the Forerunner, and it will be based on the life and teachings of St. John the Baptist and some fundamental things that guys need to grow if we're going to grow up and to grow into Christ. If you're interested in learning more, there is the link. And that's the end of my shameless self-promotion here tonight. We're talking about finding our purpose. Again, a couple of other preliminaries. First, I apologize I haven't been with you in a little while. I've been traveling internationally and have, I've been in England, Scotland, and Wales, so I've been 5 hours ahead of you. It really wasn't possible for me to get on the call the last time I was scheduled to do that. And then I was also out of town traveling around the country. I had to see some people out of state, which took me out for the last time I should have been here. So I miss you guys, and it's really good to be back here with you. So I do appreciate that. And for those of you who maybe don't know me, I talk a lot. I tend to talk a little fast. I try to keep up with comments in the chat. If I don't, if you have a question or an issue, I don't mind that you raise your hand electronically or just unmute yourself and blurt it out. I'm not offended by that in the least. Okay. So if there's something you really want to know more about and I'm just passing by it too quick, let me know. And we'll spend time on whatever it is that is of interest to you and gives you the most value. All right. That's enough preliminary stuff. Talking about finding your purpose. In the broadest strokes, and for us as Christian men, how do we fulfill the two great commandments of God, to love God and to love our neighbor? That's really what we're talking about. And so there really is, for guys, a real need to move beyond our selfish preoccupations. And forgive me, this is particularly an affliction of the young. It's not exclusively an affliction of the young. Lord knows old dudes such as myself can be pretty well self-absorbed sometimes. But to move out of sort of largely kind of, narcissistic preoccupation with ourselves into other-centered, other-focused goals is what we're talking about here, while always keeping the gospel in mind as you do so. Notice that the two great commandments of loving God and loving our neighbor both take our attention off ourselves and direct it outward. So I'm going to suggest that your purpose is going to be in some way directed outward that will involve God and the rest of the world as well, and will not be a self-centered thing. Okay? Fundamentally, in the briefest possible way, I think your purpose is tied up in how you add value to others and to the world. How do you add value to others and to the world? I think that's it kind of in a nutshell. But there's a lot to unpack with that, and that's what I'm going to be doing with the rest of my talk here. So especially for some of you younger dudes, are at the cusp of this, maybe not entirely sure what you want to do with your life, maybe not entirely finding a path, not quite sure what your vision is or what your mission is in life. Some of you may not know quite how to adult, as I've heard it put. Maybe you've come to the understanding, the realization that you need maybe a transcendent purpose to live for, something bigger than yourself, to give yourself to really give meaning and value to your life, because sort of working in a cube farm for the man for the rest of your life doesn't really strike you as kind of a worthwhile thing to surely life has got to be more than that and working 9 to 5. And you'd be absolutely right. For a lot of younger guys, footnote, for those of you who are probably mid to late 20s, maybe even into your early 30s, if this is resonating and you find that I'm kind of talking to your experience, This may well be because neurologically, the prefrontal cortex is finally firming up in your brain here, the part of your brain that has to do with executive function, with no longer seeing everything in stark black and white terms, that allows you to delay gratification a little more, to begin to project into the future and to think more clearly about long-term goals, and not to be quite so reactionary when things come up. So, if you just happen to be in that age group, you're absolutely right. You ought to be dissatisfied and looking for something bigger and for a purpose. This is precisely what you need to be doing at this stage in your life. And for those of us who are older men, sometimes if we have an idea of what our purpose or the goal of our life is or the vision, sometimes we allow that to get hijacked. Sometimes we lose sight of it. Sometimes we allow ourselves to wander off into sideshows, and it's a matter of recovering it. Or if we've spent too long and have not genuinely honored our heart, then we need to find some way to make those things that are most deeply meaningful to us present in our lives in ways that enrich our own lives, and again, add value and enrich the world around us. All right. So let me know if I stop speaking English. I'm saying this. Am I okay? Am I speaking am I making sense? Okay. This sounds good. All right. Excellent. Okay. So the parable of the talents comes here, when Christ gave out you know, the talents of 5, 2, and 1 talent. They went and traded with them and got more, except for the one guy who buried it in the ground. We all have a potential. That little thing that that like old Jewish yentas are always saying. I, he's a nice boy. He's got potential. They're absolutely right. Yeah, a lot of us are nice boys, and we do have potential. And I'll tell you this also, little footnote for those of you who may are looking for a wife or looking forward to getting married someday. One of the largest indicators for women that will make you attractive to them is not looks maxing your hard jawline, but rather it's going to be potential for future earnings. Are you going to be able to provide for your woman, or eventually for your children, provide a stable home? Okay. So yeah, the economic piece is real important to women. So, getting the degree, finishing that certification or whatever training that is, try to have that part of your life down. And if you're young and you're not quite sure what to do with that, I'd kind of prioritize that a little bit, especially if you're looking forward to getting married, in the foreseeable future, because that's really, really important to women. All right. And that's biological. They're tied up with having, pregnancy makes them less viable for carrying on a lot of work or a lot of effort. Having young children around, they're preoccupied with taking care of kids. They cannot provide for themselves. That's on you. So your ability to signal that you can do that, maybe all you got, beginning salary or starting salary, saying, nah, but man, you're on a good path, and down the road you'll do okay. That's fine. That's fine, because they will look to that and they'll see it. You're nice boys. Y'all got potential. Okay, just make sure you realize it. All right. So this leads us back to one of the fundamental things that we find is the difference between boys and men is that boys consume more than they produce, because boys are dependents, right? On the other hand, men are expected to produce more than they consume. That is, you need to be able to provide for your own needs, but you also need to have enough left over that you can provide for your family, that you can actually add value to your employer. Okay, so men are expected to add value to the world, and I think this is fundamental to us. Even from Genesis, even when Adam was cursed, and the ground was cursed because of him, it was expected that he was supposed to work. And as an interpretation, granted, Milton was a Puritan when he wrote Paradise Lost and all, but he's clearly understood. Milton has the Adam and Eve like working hard all day to keep the Garden of Eden well tended. That somehow it's inherent in the human condition that we're supposed to be working and making something of the world. So I haven't checked that with the fathers, so don't hold me to that one precisely. Let's see, a couple of things. 68 and never figured out your purpose. I'll address that a little later on. Okay, sometimes that's only seen in retrospect. All right, just to give you the thumbnail answer on that one. Yeah, an income potential, very important. Women staying in shape and taking care of their appearance is important to men. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, ladies, don't get fat and just be pleasant. Really, that's pretty much all guys really want. You know, if you can do that, you'll be okay. Probably be okay. What is telling women the reciprocal is our genuine question. No, I think that's it. Yeah, men being largely much more visual, we look for women, and just again talking in footnotes and going off on little tangents here. What is it about the things that men find attractive in women? You know, sort of those sexual characteristics, big boobs, round hips, you know, all of that. It shows they are all related to a woman's healthy ability to conceive a child, to bring a healthy child to term, and to deliver a baby and for that child to live. There, in fact, everything that we find sexy in women is directly related to her ability healthily to bring forth children. You know, so that's sort of like biological and hardwired into us. Okay. So women who want to attract men are going to optimize for those sorts of things. And men are much more visual than women are. So they want women, appearance means a lot to men. We tend to think, and countersexual miscommunication, we think because, you know, we like attractive women and that's what attracts them. We think that women look to us and that men have to be attractive in the same way in order to look good to women. No, the joke is the most attractive part of a man is his wallet. Uh, I think that's a little cynical myself. I think the most attractive part of a man is having a spine, which is also very attractive to women, that you can actually stand up for yourself and you stand for something and you have some values. Okay. And you're not just willing to fall over, just to be accommodating and pleasing to her. Anyway, that's a lot. The happiness of pursuit, not the pursuit of happiness. Yeah, that's nicely done. Okay. Let's see. So we need to produce more than we consume. But question, how do I know if my purpose, what I think my purpose is, aligns with God's will? Okay. Good question. I get this a lot. And what I'd like to suggest is that I'm not sure that God's will is always as specific as we think it is or as we think it ought to be. Yes. I had a long conversation, hour and a half conversation this afternoon with a 21-year-old guy, who's, oh, is this God's will for me? I'm not quite sure what's God's will for me. And it was like he had 2 or 3 very specific things that he wanted to do. Every so often, I think God really smacks us upside the head that he wants us to do something. But that's more in the realm of the miraculous, and that is a very great exception to the rule. If you're waiting on God to kind of, show you clearly and irrevocably and without dissent what it is you're supposed to do, I think you're going to be waiting a very long time. And so I'm going to suggest some strategies for pursuing, your goal and a vision for your life in a way that I think honors God, but also allows you to move forward and why you need to move forward. Okay. So as it says in Romans 8, all things work together for good for those who love God. Okay. So I think so long as we're striving to follow Christ and his gospel, to do well in life, to do good, to add value, we're probably doing God's will. I'd like to suggest it's a little broader than that. And then we'll get into more the specifics of exactly what it is you should do. But Christ should be the foundation. St. Paul tells us that Christ should be the foundation of your life. He should be the cornerstone. And the cornerstone isn't set in the building just so that the rest of the building is in alignment and built out from that cornerstone so that everything lines up and fits together well. If the cornerstone isn't Christ, you're going to muck up the rest of your life. Okay, so make sure those are in place. But the whole building of your life is not Christ. That's room for everything else, that, your interests, your education, what you went to do, your family life, and all of that. You build all of that. You build your own life on the foundation of Christ, but it isn't Christ solidly through. There is plenty of room for you in your own life. Okay, just be sure Christ is the foundation, the cornerstone, and I think you'll be okay. All right. Am I speaking English here? You're still with me? All right. Am I making sense or have I gone completely off rails? All right. I see some nods here. All right. Okay, so again, as I say, I think adding value is a really shorthand way that's grounded in the commandment of God to Adam, telling him, that he has to earn his flesh, by earn his keep or his life by the sweat of his brow.
Men are in crisis. And men are in crisis because they don't know who they are or what they were created for. It affects their lives in big ways. You were not meant to struggle alone. Step out of the chaos. Discover the man that God created you to be. We challenge you. Join us. You will discover a life worth living. Join the brotherhood.